Hello and welcome back to Restore 2023 and the book of Isaiah. We're looking at chapters 47 and 48 today, which are a fulfillment of God's purpose to have Cyrus free his people from captivity in Babylon, and therefore they're a continuation of chapters 45 and 46. Now, chapter 47 is pretty straightforward, being a single poem sung in the style of a funeral dirge or taunt song. Babylon is presented as the complete picture of worldly success, confident, self-assured, and self-indulgent. Her form of religion, astrology, increases her sense of power over her destiny without making any moral demands on her, so she can feel free to be as cruel and oppressive as she likes, showing no mercy to those under her sway, which currently includes God's people, and refusing to acknowledge anyone or anything beyond herself. I am, and there is none besides me, she says. Now, the arrogance of this claim is staggering, and it is a direct challenge to the Lord's claim in chapter 45, verse 5. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Apart from me, there is no God. This is the real sin of Babylon, then, and it cannot go unanswered by the Lord. For all her sense of security, Babylon too must sit under the judgment of God. Her perceived invulnerability will prove to be nothing but an illusion, and all the magic spells and rituals she has come to rely on will not save her. This prophecy is fulfilled in part in 539 BC, when Cyrus conquers Babylon. But what Isaiah foresees here goes far beyond any one historical event. Because Babylon doesn't just represent the historical empire, it is also a symbol of humanity organised in defiance of God. Therefore, unfortunately, Babylon is alive and well in our own day, and we will meet her again in Revelation. In chapter 45, the focus switches from Babylon to the people of Israel, living in exile. Now, the comparison is far from flattering for them. They are presented as talking a good game about the Lord, and they claim citizenship of the holy city, but they remain persistent in their idolatry. In other words, they're hypocrites. The chapter is made up of 4 sections, bookended by repeated calls to listen to what the Lord is saying. And of course, the tragedy is that they are in the position they are in precisely because they have failed repeatedly to listen to him. And we see in verse 8 that they are still not listening. Through exile and the furnace of affliction, which is what he calls it in verse 10, the Lord has given them the opportunity to change their ways, but they have squandered it. Yet despite their unfaithfulness, God will still carry out his purposes for them, not primarily for their sake, but for the sake of his name, which would otherwise be defamed. So hardened have these people become that he has to tell them to watch for what he will do against Babylon and be ready to leave when the time comes, because he knows that otherwise they will give their idols the credit for what he has achieved. The final thing we should note is the voice speaking in verse 16 of chapter 48, who says, "And now the sovereign Lord has sent me, endowed with his spirit." This could just be Isaiah, or maybe a future prophet with a similar role. But given what will follow in chapter 49, it perhaps makes most sense and is most meaningful to hear this as the voice of the servant, the mysterious figure who appears throughout Isaiah's book. And it is this servant that Jesus will later identify himself with. If that is the case, then in verse 16 we get a wonderful early glimpse of the 3 persons of the Trinity all at work in the great plan of God's redemption.